Okay, are we ready to go?
We're good.
Okay. Okay, I will call this meeting to order, the County Rail Trail Roundtable for October the 8th. I will ask someone to do a roll call.
I can do that for you, Councillor
Not sure who's doing
Moffat.
that. Or am I doing
Warden
it?
Danielson,
Here.
Councillor Moffat,
Am I frozen already?
Yeah.
Yes.
Did I freeze again already?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been on lots of Zoom calls and I don't know what it is about the freezing because I sit in the same place every time. So my apologies for that. So I think I heard Michelle say she was doing a roll call. Is that correct?
yes, it is. Thank you. Councillor Roberts,
Here.
Councillor Burton,
Here.
Mr. Douglas,
Here.
Ms. Vertanen. Here. Okay, so over to you, Carol.
Okay, Carol, we are good to go.
Okay, so I froze again, and I'm not spending an hour freezing and unfreezing. Like I'm not doing it. So what would the group like to do?
Well, obviously, it's pretty hard to proceed with an open discussion with the chair having such difficulties. I know how frustrating it would be, and I guess I would suggest that maybe we try and reschedule and see if there can't be something done to help the problem. I don't know what else to say. What do you think, Andrea?
Yeah, just I mean, you can just try going off the video, which is what's freezing. I don't know if it's the voice freezing. We do have Councillor Burton on telephone. It makes it a little harder to see, but we're not making a lot of resolutions or motions. So should we try that? And if it's not successful, if we're having 10 minutes of frustration, then let's reboot. I was just trying to quickly look and see the agendas or anything that's critical today, and I'd probably the answers no.
Yeah, and can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe we should just talk a little bit about that. I mean, the idea today was to just review, to continue with the, what's still relevant and what to be done in the next couple of sections. But the main conversation I wanted to have was about, now that we've had a couple of meetings, this is a really big document and there's a lot of it that needs to be updated. This document was accepted with all kinds of options and choices and descriptors in it. We're way past that. So what I was hoping to do is have a quick look at sections 5 and 6 and then go on to spend the majority of time on our future direction. Because now that, as I say, now that we're kind of into it, some things are sort of falling into place, certainly for me in terms of what needs to happen next. So if you haven't lost me yet and you can still hear me.
Yes.
I can see people. I can't see Dave, of course. And we can carry on with the agenda as outlined. And as Andrea said, just if we have to end the meeting because of instability for internet, we can do that, unfortunately. But okay, so I'm kind of talking on purpose to see if it will cut me out, and it's not. May I have a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the agenda?
I so move.
Liz and Dave. Michelle, are you going to read those out, or what are we going to do there? I'm glad this is a round table and not a formal meeting.
I can do whatever your preference is, Chair Moffat.
Great. If you would read that resolution, then we'll carry on.
Moved by Warden Danielson, second by Councillor Burton. Be it resolved that the October 8th, 2020 Haliburton County Rail Trail Steering Committee agenda be approved.
All in favor of that?
Yay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Dave has said yay, so that's good. That's carried, thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest today for this meeting?
No.
Dave?
No.
Okay, thank you. May I have a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the minutes from the previous meeting?
I'll move. Yeah.
Andrea and Liz. Thank you.
Be it resolved, moved by Councillor Roberts, second by Warden Danielson. Be it resolved that the minutes from the September 9th, 2020 meeting of the Haliburton County Rail Trail Steering Committee be adopted as circulated.
Excuse me, all in favor?
Yay.
That's carried, thank you. Okay, business number 5, business arising, was just the updates that we had asked staff to undertake for our review. And you will see those, the master plan objectives are there. So first of all, the goal is there. And I believe from my notes that it captures what we talked about. Is there any further discussion on that goal, the way it's written now? And remember, anything we decide now is not written in stone. We're just trying to get through a bit of a process. We will be circling back to make sure all the pieces fit together at the other end anyway.
Looks good.
Okay, great. Then the objectives. So we had quite a long conversation about all these pieces, and so these 8 points now reflect that conversation. And are there any comments or thoughts about what that looks like now? Okay, I'm going to take that as no, so meaning that we're good to go on that. And then the guiding principles, again, we did have some add-ons, so we can probably move straight to those. They're on the second page of what was provided, and there's a section there that says staff add-on. So I wonder if staff that are in the council chambers could just take us through what they added. And I mean, they're not very huge points, but there will be some nesting of initiatives under each of these as we move forward, or consider other documentation, other user groups, other partnerships and whatnot. But for our purposes today, Amanda, can you just talk to us a little bit about your 2 points there?
Absolutely. So tourism is sort of peppered throughout here and there, and some of the points that were under tourism previously were focused around partnerships. So that's sort of been separated out now. So now the section that really is tourism focused is retitled marketing and promotions. And the 2 points there are to include the rail trail as a key tourism asset in applicable county promotions, and to encourage visitation of rail trail users, new and existing, to area businesses. So we think that sort of broadly covers any type of tourism activity and promotion there for the trail.
Yeah, it's definitely broad reaching. And at this point, does that satisfy, excuse me, the working group in terms of just having plucked out the word tourism all over the place and just put it under one place, knowing full well that there will be outcomes or initiatives nested within this framework as we continue to move through the document?
So
yeah, go ahead, Andrea.
yeah, no, I really like that idea. I just want a clarification of sort of where we're going for the people listening, watching our meeting right now, and we watch it at a later time. So is the idea that we have reworded some of the goals and objectives and reworded some of these things and adding some of these things on, and then we're going to take that back out to the public because this was a public document? Will we be, when we're as a roundtable group, first I would take it to county council, to review the discussions that we've been having, but then will we be taking this out for the public to see if there's anything we've missed? So just in terms of things like marketing and promotions and all the language, little changes here and there.
Yeah, I think that's, if you wouldn't mind, I've jotted that down under number 7. So can we
Thank you.
put a pause on that and we'll circle back?
Absolutely.
I mean, the section that Amanda has added, there's only 2 points, and it almost seems like a bit of motherhood because there's there's many things that could be done within that context, but we don't have them yet. We're just trying to separate out what was, as Amanda said, peppered throughout the document, put it in its own section. When this plan was done, we didn't have, I mean, the Chamber of Commerce is still doing tourism, I believe. And the county was not doing, didn't have a tourism department and wasn't doing the tourism marketing. So many things have shifted. We're trying to get the language right, and then we'll circle back to populate or make sure we have initiatives or more details around that, if that's okay. All right, so I'm going to say that just it's pretty simple, but that's okay for the group. Section D, operations and maintenance, and I guess Craig, that's over to you.
Okay, thank you, Carol. So section D, operations and maintenance. There's 5 points in there, and I've prioritized them based on reaction time. For example, if there is a deficiency or a washout or whatnot, then we need to get out there and put up tape or barrels or warning signs. Then the next priority, of course, is to fix that washout. So that's number 2. Public requests and concerns should be documented and responded to in a timely manner. Again, that's those are one-off priorities. 4 and 5 relate to our annual plan, spot repairs. We'll do those. We can at least schedule those in. It's not an emergency. Maintenance and a final note: maintenance activities shall be carried out consistent with design criteria and standards. So 4 and 5 essentially are similar. It's regarding our maintenance plans for the year.
And my question, something what I had circled was the design criteria and standards, because whose design criteria and which standards, or whose standards? So do we need to clarify that? Would it be enough to put in language that says, you know, the like previous design criteria or currently approved design criteria, or because it's a bit, I think it's a bit too wide open.
I believe section 7 in the document is very specific. Let's confirm there.
I think
So
that's
it'll-
something that we're going to have to go over.
Say that again, Liz.
Well, I just think that the design criteria is a specific area that we're going to have to discuss at some point.
Excuse me. Yeah, and the challenge is there's a million things to discuss.
Yeah, and I'm a little concerned with number 3. I just to jump back, we're in the same section.
Okay. So
The statement in itself is okay, but I'm just a little concerned that that Craig might be inundated with with concerns from individuals and what are people's expectations in what is a timely manner. But I guess that's something that we'll have to discuss too at some point in time.
yeah, well, I mean, good point. What is timely? Because for some people, timely is if I hear from you in a couple of weeks, that's fine. And for some people, timely manner is within the hour. So,
If I may.
go ahead, Andrea. Yeah, please.
Yeah, I do like the idea that it says documented, so that if in the event that there is a rail trail committee again, or even if not, sorry, a tickle, that I mean, it could be as simple as one of the Stoneville stop signs are down, and it's at my driveway, and it needs to be repaired. Who do I call? But it could be something much greater than that, speeding or ATVs on that window when they're not supposed to be on in the spring, that type of thing. So we're not, but at least, there'll be a documentation, which there probably already is right now. We're just not aware of all that. And timely manner would, again, I guess, depend on what staff, is it critical? Is it maybe goes back up to number 1. So I think, Craig would have to manage that.
The majority of the calls would be there's a tree down or there's a washout. So timely is now to get out there with the chainsaw or whatnot, or at least a barrel just to warn people. But you're right, if it's a sign down or whatnot, then we can carry that out when we're doing other signs.
And so then, again, it's easy to be the people who put a sentence in place and know what it means, but others may not know.
Okay.
So we need to make sure we don't sort of go on, well, we knew what it meant. So perhaps there's some room for tweaking as we go forward in terms of phrases like appropriate or referred to other parties as necessary. If it's a speeding issue, it could be OPP. So we can't control that is attended to. So we could maybe, you know, and Craig, based on what you just said, it sounds like that timely manner could be based on urgency. If it's a tree down or a blockage or a dangerous situation, then there's absolutely our responsibility to ensure that it's dealt with quickly. So having said that, is there a need to have something other than timely manner?
Okay, I'm good with that.
So that
I like the word urgency, based on urgency or priority.
or something like that, yeah.
Well, and to Andrea's point about documentation, I think that there's times when the documentation process needs to be on both sides, you know, depending on what the concern is. It's easy to call up and say, oh my gosh, there's a huge pothole, or there's a, real, a serious problem. Sometimes it's a greater concern and something that's a bigger issue. And we need to ask people to document that and send us an email.
Well, could we consider, if we're going to update this whole document, one of the things, going back to Andrea's question, if we are going to ask people for their thoughts, we could have a rail trail concern form, not dissimilar to what the concern form for forestry complaints and concerns, where somebody can write down, they can fill in the form and say that the sign is down at 1057 whatever road, and then it's a form you fill in, and then it goes to staff to be taken care of. I mean, that's an option as well.
I will confirm comment section on our website. We get numerous comments and applications come in through the website, so rail trail should be no different.
I mean, opportunity to be a little more modern. Andrea, you look like you want to say something there.
Yeah, thank you. I forget you can see me. I can't see you. So one of the way, I don't think we have to say here. These are the 5 points that Craig's pointed out, and how we get there could be a separate conversation. But for instance, like with design criteria, item number 5, I like that sentence. Leave it in there, and then we can later review: is our current design criteria fine? So we don't need to change that. But my concern here with the public requests and concerns, we all know that it doesn't matter whether it's to do with our roads or a rail trail or all kinds of other issues that people of the public have, that what they're calling about might seem really, really important to them. It might seem trivial, but I like the idea of what we do with IT internally, which is a sort of a ticket system. So that way it's recorded, and even maybe then we say, we had 10 requests or 10 emails or tickets concerning the rail trail in the month of July, and 8 are resolved and 2 are ongoing. And we can sort of see through that process what, so that's more about how we're going to get there. I still like the sentence on number 3, but how we're going to get there is maybe a whole separate issue. Like I said, ticketed system, and then was it followed through and resolved and resolved? Yeah, that's not our problem. That's right. Or then you could say, referred to OPP on such and such a date, and then that allows an opportunity for documented follow-up as well. So that's a point well taken.
We do, when we get a road incident, we have a work order system that gets filled out and goes out to the staff automatically, and it's followed up and tracked in that regard. So the rail trail is no different from roads. If somebody calls in about a pothole, then it would be tracked and operations would get out there.
And so we need to remember that this is specific to operations and maintenance, not to philosophy or overarching, uses or beliefs. So Craig, if you think that works internally, I think Andrea's right that we don't need to spell that out here. We can just make that whatever opportunity for a more streamlined feedback process is that you could let us know what you think is best to facilitate that process.
Okay,
Not
agreed.
today, but that would be probably easier. Okay, so if we go back to under number 5, section 7 covers that in detail. So is there anything else in operations and maintenance? Again, I'm going to say 100 times. This is our first look at pulling the specific piece out of the other document, and when we start to reassemble the pieces, this could change. But for today's purposes, are we okay with this, with what Craig's provided there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and then trail management. Craig, are you speaking to that?
Sure. 3 items under trail management. Number 1, County Council is responsible for the overall management of the rail trail. Focus on policy and development. Number 2 and number 3 are responsibility of Public Works. So that's the annual work plans and budgets in number 2, and the actual repairs and public interfacing, number 3.
Right, and should we come out, should we land anywhere where there is going to be a committee reestablished at any time, this can be revisited. That's what I have found the challenge is that this document, the way it's written, is, and I've said before, I'll probably say way too many times, it's full of options and shoulds and mights and considerations. We're so far past all of that that the document it's still relevant, but it's tremendously out of date. And we need to rejig it so that it actually says what we're doing. A lot of the decisions have already been made many, many years ago from this master plan. So we need to make this master plan, I think, smaller, more concise, and just get to the point. It almost becomes a management document. And we'll get to the, in next steps, sort of what else we have to review as well. So in terms of the trail management section, does that suffice for today and from what we asked from last time?
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't sound like you're sure, Liz.
No, we obviously have a lot more discussion. And so for our purposes now, I guess no, I'm okay.
Okay, well, considering that we can and will circle back, I mean, and we'll get to that in a minute. And Craig, what do you want to talk about your note retrail management, or is that just sort of a little history lesson there?
That's essentially just a history lesson that that's section 10.6 note, Trail Management Board. So obviously we've gotten away from that. So I was just sort of pointing that out, that things have changed since 2001.
Yeah, and so that's a perfect example of how far we've come, or what is different from then that needs to be shaken loose from this document, so that it just simply tells us what is happening, as opposed to, I mean, Trails and Tours doesn't exist, and there's more organizations than just HSCA and I guess the ATV Association came later. So that's a good example of that. Okay, well then can I am going to ask my council colleagues, do I need a mover, do we need a resolution to accept these changes from Business Horizon, or is it just, what do you think we should do there?
Well, I think if we're going to report back to County Council, any recommendations that we want to change to the plan, that it should, what would be a recommendation from this committee and moved. And if we all agree with these as it stands right now, including the last point, trail management, which I'd be so happy to move, I think it would be helpful to go to County Council.
As a recommendation.
As a recommendation.
Before we do that, then I do want to go back to number 2 on trail management. I guess I'm a little hung up on the word staff. When you talk about work plans and budgets, I would be happier if it said Public Works Department or Director in that case.
Number 2 on operations, Liz?
under trail management, number 2.
Okay, down there, okay.
So it might make more sense if it says the department, because it could be assigned internally,
Right.
or and the recommendation could come from any place within that hierarchy. So is that kind of where you're going, Liz, on that?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, fair enough. I think that's fair enough. And then,
Yeah. I actually like how that flows too from number 1, because it's county council ultimately that's responsible for the management with a focus on policy and development. So if we focused on certain policies and development, the work plans flow from there. You know, if we've said this is our standard, this is what we want, and you know, and ultimately we approve the budget. So as it comes forward at budget time each year, it should follow whatever policies we have, right? It's a
yeah. So those three sections clearly illustrate sort of the nesting authority
yes.
from top down, from decision making down to the work being done. So that's a good point. Thank you. Okay, well, if there's nothing further on that for now, I would like a mover and a seconder to accept these changes as presented in Business Arising. Andrea and
I will second.
Liz.
So Chair Moffat, what I have for a resolution, if it's agreeable, is moved by Councillor Roberts, second by Warden Danielson. Be it resolved that the Haliburton County Rail Trail Steering Committee receive for information the staff updates on the rail trail objectives and principles from the draft master plan, and that these additions be recommended to Haliburton County Council.
I think that sounds good.
Yep.
Everyone want to nod their head or shake their head on that? Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, so then you've sort of heard that. All in favor?
Yes.
Great, thanks, Dave. So that's good. Okay, under new business, we have a couple of items. And this is where it kind of blends into the next steps. Again, this is when this plan was done. It was the original sort of ideological mapping of the asset, and so there's a whole bunch of stuff. Craig mentioned earlier before the meeting started that a lot of these things are now captured in the county's GIS system. So I guess I'm looking for what pieces live somewhere else now that we might break out into a different or a new section, and what pieces remain relevant, and if there's any pieces of in this area that just simply don't need to be there anymore because they're kind of old news. Because don't forget, this master plan will always be a document of its own age. It will always live in the annals of time. We're just looking at updating it. So, Craig, do you want to take us through that sort of your thoughts on the inventory section and what lives elsewhere now?
So there's a list of about 12 things in there. In the first section there, bullet points, and essentially they've been transferred into about 5 figures on that are in the document, all colored with and legend and whatnot. Some of the items that are mentioned in there. For example, I'm just looking at figure 6 here: interpretive nodes, staging areas, fencing. All the culverts are documented. We have those and their condition all on our GIS, for example. Fencing, we've been dealing with a lot of the property owners that have cattle and whatnot and need to ensure that their fences are erected. And at this point, everything's in good condition. They've got some overnight camping marked and some, tourist type activities, lookouts. Yeah. So, and then of course they've marked all the towns and whatnot there. So yeah, honestly, I'm not sure. This is almost 20 years old, some of this stuff. So whether I'm not suggesting we go out there and remap, but we certainly have to be cognizant of what is out there. Vegetation. historic. Now,
Yeah, I
might be a good
wonder,
time.
sorry, Craig, go ahead, I interrupted you.
Now, one of the, we do have an application out there to do some work on the rail trail. One of those is in terms of the interpretive signing and historic documenting and whatnot. So I think that might get covered off here. But I think the general flavor of the inventory here, the culverts haven't changed, the landscape hasn't changed, the lookouts haven't changed, the crossings haven't changed, the creeks are still there, and so on. Go ahead, Carol.
So is this section, well, certainly this section as it's written just isn't really relevant in its current form. So if maybe a bit of the homework is breaking out the pieces that are, you know, the very first sentence, an inventory of the abandoned rail line was conducted on May 2nd, 2003. Great. And, you know, over many years, a lot of these items have been transferred into the county GIS system. Is it important that the inventory items listed here remain in an updated document? I guess that's the question. It's kind of a yes, no. And are the maps still relevant? The maps, some things won't change. Culverts won't change. Lookout points may not have changed, but many other things may have changed since then. So what's still relevant in section 5? Andrea?
So I think these maps are incredible, and the work that was done, you know, close to almost like just under 20 years ago was so detailed and fabulous. But it's almost like this is more the public work map, and then we would need a different type of map because for the users. Because personally, when I'm riding my bike or going for a hike, I really don't care if there's a culvert. If there's a lookout, I care. If there's a historic section that's of interest, point of interest, I care about that. Maybe if there's a bench or whatever. So I think all of the mapping that was done, as Craig just said, the creek did change and the culverts are there. They used that as a more operational and maintenance map. But then maybe something that could be a goal, and maybe I'm leaping ahead to next steps, can't help myself, is that we create a more of a touristy map. Does that make sense? A map that is for the user who's not doing the work and doesn't care about the culverts.
To know about points of interest more than.
Yes, and where can I drive to at what point and then start a hike from here to here? And I was doing that in the spring. So I went down to Sedgwick Road and Francis Road and went, oh look, park here, and I did this section, and then so I think we need to know the entry points and that type of thing, but it would be more for the user and create an updated map, a separate map. These are still relevant for the work and the maintenance.
Yeah, and I think, so separating out the operational requirements from user requirements and circling back into the promotion, marketing and promotion and recreational opportunities. And so then do we foresee, because we are in a different world than when this document was created, that we would have a more robust rail trail presence online, wherein any events, you know, the events that Fort does or things that are happening on the trail can be listed there, whether they link up through the events that are self-populated. Amanda, do you see an opportunity there to make sure that things that are happening, whether it's, you know, for years it's been Katie's Run has been out there too. I think the Corduroy Enduro has used it for a small piece of it during the Cord. As I say, there's the Friends of the Rail Trail events. And so do you see an opportunity there to better publicize the asset in terms of getting people to know what's going on it?
Yes, I think that we do publicize all those events, but I think we haven't probably prominently enough said that they are taking place on the rail trail. So we can easily create, doesn't need to be a section, but we can easily promote all the events that happen on the trail and create some really consumer facing and consumer friendly maps and information of the trail that can, you know, live in the digital world and perhaps in the physical world in the future.
Yeah, because we can look at it two ways. We can either say, hey, there's all these really neat things happening and they happen to be on the rail trail. Or we can say, hey, we have a rail trail and these neat things are happening on it. So it depends on which way, you know, what's, I keep, you know, in my mind works sort of a nesting dolls. What's the primary, what's the primary asset, and then to be promoted, and then follow it down from there. So if we can, I think Michelle is madly making notes of our ideas. And so then, so we're talking about separating in terms of this section, it probably going away in its current form, and breaking out operational from users, and then building back those sections. Is that what I'm hearing?
That would be my thought too. Like all of the items in the inventory are valid, but not necessarily. Yeah, I mean they're different, and I think we need to have a list for operations and maintenance, and then a list for public users. And actually, I do like the idea of possibly establishing a separate section on the website for the rail trail. And hey, you know, we've got a fabulous rail trail, and here's what's going on. And other people, other groups can feed into that.
Unmute. There is, because I know I had to look it up on the county website, mapping of the rail trail currently. It was just a little hard to dig and find it. So I just want to hear from Amanda, because I can't right in the middle of the meeting go onto our website, so maybe you'll have a recollection of what do we have currently on our website in terms of mapping for the rail trail that isn't detailed like this, with every gradient and where there's gravel and sand and like all of the.
So currently there's the two different websites. So really there's what I would refer to as our business website, haliburtoncounty.ca, that has the bulk of the rail trail information on it actually, just because it's kind of in the past been looked at as sort of under the umbrella of public works. But when you're on the tourism website, myhaliburtonhighlands.com, we've just focused on the events themselves that have taken place on the rail trail. And then we have a more consumer friendly map, but it is a little buried. So we don't have like a section specifically on the tourism website that focuses on the rail trail itself, which was just a directive I had very early on, but we can easily change that. I mean, like we've said, a lot of this has been sort of outdated information, right? So it can become more front and center on myhaliburtonhighlands.com and less so on what I would call the business website.
Yeah, and I think that's the important shift for all of this, which will I hope have a really fulsome discussion under next steps, is breaking this valuable but very outdated document into the current use. And it's almost like a guiding or management document for the trail, because so many things that are in this current plan were options or possibilities that are long since solved. So I think what I'm hearing is section 5 in terms of inventory analysis on a go forward basis will be technically eliminated but reframed into sections of like tourism or user interest and operational mandates. Does that capture what I think I'm hearing? Yeah, Andrea?
Sorry, can you just reword what, like we don't need to take, we're not taking it out, right?
That wouldn't be my thought. No.
No, what did you just, if you can repeat yourself, Carol, sorry.
So yeah, I'm there'd be no point in leaving it in here. If road crossings and driveways and culverts and things are live in the GIS, the county's GIS system, and are under the auspices of Public Works for operations and maintenance, then it makes more sense, I think, to have an operational section where it simply has a statement that says, you know, the inventory of creeks and road crossings and culverts are all in the GIS system and remain are the purview of the Public Works Department. Like, we don't need to list all of this in an updated document because there's no point.
Well, there is a point to some extent, though. This is just a thought. Do we want to let the public know, caution, there is a road crossing coming up, or there's a private driveway that needs to be considered? I mean, they're operations and maintenance, but they're also, those kinds of points might also be relevant for users.
But not in a master plan. The plan is the guiding document. It's the master plan is the official plan,
Yeah,
and the operationalization of the pieces of it are the zoning bylaw. If I can make a comparison, right? So the master plan is the what and the who and the how, but the not the how, but and how it gets done is laid out like we just approved on the previous section. Trail management, county council is responsible for the overall management. Annual work plans are recommended by Public Works Department, and repairs and public interfacing carried out by staff. So that's an overarching, that's the overarching approach to the trail in that section. So similarly, we don't need to know today anymore that the items that were considered in 2003 were roadways, private drives, crossing points, because that still lives in this document. We are updating the document to be more of a, to my understanding, to be more of a current day management
Okay.
guide document.
So
Yeah,
why I asked you to repeat yourself, and that I just want to be clear. So then if we state very clearly to first to county council with their approval, and then to the public that this type of detail is still living, it's just over here. We don't need to see it. And by the time we get everything updated, maybe we'll have a sort of new, more user-friendly type of a map. So it's not that this is gone, this has been ongoing, but it's somewhere else, and it's more updated anyway, because some of these things, it makes it culvert 1 foot in diameter, good condition. Well, that was 20 years ago, maybe that's been replaced, I don't even know. So we don't need the detail of a public work document in this, just the same as we would on our roads. We just say where our roads are, and this is a nice road, and here's a picnic table. So yes, as long as we let people know that it's not gone, it's just over here.
that's right. And I think we need to be careful not to mix up the idea of tweaking the plan to be a current day management philosophy and guide versus what might come from it, as an example, maps or interpretive points or benches or events. Those are all the outcomes that live within the opportunities outlined in the tweaked plan. Right? Like I think so. Anyway, let's just say for 5 that, well, because we're drifting into the future direction part. So for 5, in the updated plan, 5 would look a little bit different, is what I thought I was hearing, is that there'd be an operational section and then a tourism or user section related to some of the things in here. Like an updated document for the master plan for the rail trail does not need to say the corridor is predominantly backcountry, having limited industrial and agricultural. Like, we don't need that anymore. This is a base document from a long time ago. We need to cut the fat off an updated version and make it more of a current document that is reflective of all the work that's been done by lots of people over the many years in a broader and more collaborative community. That's where I thought we were going with this.
okay.
Is that not what anybody else thought, or this is the time to have this conversation?
No, exactly.
Certainly, exactly.
Okay, so then if we're agreed on that, then can we say, once we find a way to break out operations from tourism as regards inventory or assets or opportunities, they will all live somewhere else. I think then section 5 essentially doesn't look like this anymore. It's going to be broken up and become something different. The trail corridor and the Burnt River come into close proximity at several points along the trail. We don't need that. So,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I just wonder if, like, in the interest of time and just maybe for ease of going through the document, does it make sense if Craig and I, look through 5 and 6 kind of the way we did with sections 3 and 4, and then make recommendations that, the round table can review at the next meeting and just say, yay or nay, or change up this section? Because I think it's sometimes better to work from a version that already exists than to kind of be trying to start from scratch.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree, and I think I was just going to move along from 5 because I think we've landed
Oh,
exactly.
sorry.
That's okay. I think we've landed exactly where you just got to yourself, Amanda. Is you folks have heard what we've said. We need that somehow broken out so that it's still in terms of a guiding document for the management of the rail trail, identifies the operational needs in terms of the inventory, the public works inventory. That's fine. And then there needs to be something else that breaks out some of those tourism, public user opportunities. So if you guys do that and bring it back, then you're right. It's easier for us to look at it and see if it meets what we were talking about or not. But I do think for number 6, master plan concepts, this is where, it's talking about the public meetings and what people said. And well, that's 1,000 years ago. So the master plan concept, it needs to be 1. So if it's still numbered number 6, master plan concept would be just what the use of the trail is now. And we've been through that over and over and over. We have the community consultation from 2012. So I don't think we need to have in an updated plan options. That's asked and answered many times by many versions of county council. Thoughts on that?
I agree.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about our discussion that we had at the last meeting where Andrea had said that, that cycling has exploded, and that we had not really looked at the economic impact of cycling versus the economic impact of ATVs. So, if we talked about the importance of having maybe to consider that, what impact does that have on this section?
I don't think it has any impact. Because I think there needs to be a generalized statement that says, maybe the word isn't concept, but we need to state what the current use is, and also allow to accommodate exactly what you're saying, Liz, is we need to have some statement that says, and opportunities as they arise, so that as the community changes, we can embrace these things. How those things might happen or what they are would live under the tourism opportunity section.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I didn't necessarily mean that by looking at the economics of different users meant that we would, shift gears entirely. It might simply impact how we promote the trail, or how we add to our promotion of the trail. I mean, there could be a number of different outcomes from it, but okay. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah, because we can build that language in once we set, this is setting the framework for some of the bigger sections, and then we will build back into it those linking pieces.
I certainly agree that we do not need all these options, because they are not necessarily options for us anymore. We've set our set the scene already.
Yeah,
I agree. I was just sorry. Yeah, I think this section needs to go out, and as you stated, Carol, that we have this is what the rail trail is now, and so because the day for options is who knows, it could change again with public pressure, but for right now it's working, and it's working well. And I walk and I ride my bike, and an ATV passes, and it's all happy, everybody's good. And I think, the options have already been decided. So I think stating what the rail trail is right now is much better.
Yeah, and I think it's important too that we're not trying to create a document that, is a closed book. Somewhere in the editing of this document, we need to ensure that we somehow say that what the current use of the trail is, and that county council will continue to assess opportunities as they may arise, because anything can change.
Yes.
Opportunities are coming up all the time. Cycling is one of them. The explosion in recreational activities through COVID. Hopefully, that in terms of people getting out and doing things, that's a permanent change just for the health of, healthy living for people. So let's make sure that we don't lose that option to always remind ourselves to always consider and assess opportunities as they arise.
Mhm.
So that we don't look like we've got our nose in the corner. That wouldn't be fair.
Right.
Okay, I'm just going to make a note here. Just so hang on a second, if you don't mind, please. Okay, so then Craig and Amanda are going to go through section 5 and break that out into their respective departments with some language and bring that back. Is that correct, Amanda? Is that what you committed you and Craig to?
I think so. Craig thinks that makes sense. Sorry, I got there a little bit after everybody else by the sounds of it, but
As long as you landed in the same place.
I was busy looking at the culverts along the way.
Well, they're very
Good thing we're socially separated.
Okay, well then can I have a, Michelle, how have you captured that, or have you, in terms of what's your proposed resolution say, if you have one?
So at the moment for section 5, be it resolved that the Rail Trail Steering Committee directs staff to amend section 5 of the 2004 master plan to include the following sections: 1, operations, and 2, tourism and public users. And I probably should say, and that staff bring a report back to the next meeting of the committee.
Yeah, does that sound like what everybody agreed to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, may I have a mover and a seconder for that?
Dave?
Dave and Liz, thank you. And I think we've more or less heard that resolution. We're just adding names to it. So I will ask if everyone's all in favor of that, as you heard.
Yes.
That's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, so next steps. I will confess to being a little bit slow off the mark in getting organized for this whole process. So, but I did make a whole bunch of notes, and this is what I wanted to check with the gang on and see if you agree. So at the moment, we're kind of doing a very high level tweak of some philosophical concepts. So we've talked a little bit about, in the last meeting, what's been achieved, what's still relevant, and what work is still to be done. So we more or less landed on some things have been achieved. Most things are still relevant, and gosh, there's still an awful lot of work to be done. So we have seen that reflected in the Business Horizon that came back today. What I want, so 5 and 6 now, we're going to see that come back. And I think we want to put our heads around, and this is what I'm looking for a discussion on, is, what do we do with the maps? If they have outdated, as Andrew said, they were very, very detailed and tremendously well done. Are they still relevant? What do we do with them? Where do they live? As Craig said, we're certainly not going to go and do that level of mapping of the trail again, but we do have a GIS system that's fairly robust. So just generally, what do we do with the maps, or maps in general? What do we need and not need now in the entire document? And as mentioned earlier, I was seeing it, and I thought I understood it to be, from us even convening, was to shift the document from what could be from that long ago to what is sort of like a management or guiding document of today's reality. The thing that I want to circle back on next, not today, but the next meeting is, and that will get sent out. Craig, I don't think it got sent out, is the community engagement update. So that's also a bit of a meaty document. And the reports we see at County Council from Craig are based largely on the outcomes of that community engagement strategy. But it's been a long time since any of us looked at it. And Andrea, yeah, I don't know that you weren't. Oh, yeah, you probably were on county, weren't you, when that was done?
What year?
12?
No, I got on 2014.
In March 2012.
I wasn't part of the county. I was on Dysart Council.
Yeah, so there was, following the March 2012 presentation of the final report of the Haliburton County Rail Trail Community Engagement Strategy, this is what's on it, Warden Fury appointed an ad hoc working group to review the recommendations, seek clarification and input as deemed necessary to make recommendations to County Council. The working group included Deputy Reeves Danielson, Partridge, Davis, and Murdoch, along with Reeve Carol Moffat, who acted as the county liaison to the engagement strategy, as well as the CAO, the roads director, and the roads clerk. So there was quite a lengthy table produced with mapping or with signage options. It's a couple of pages more than 20. And so I think it's important that we go through that and again and do the what's achieved, what's still relevant, and what work still needs to be done as the next piece. And then in my scribbly notes, I'm hoping that then we can, and to those who don't know how my brain works, this probably sounds like fireworks going off and they make no sense. In the very first meeting, I took a whole bunch of notes that was the chart of questions to ask ourselves. Who needs to be consulted? Why? In what areas? What's still relevant? And there were some very specific details there. And I'm wondering if it's after those two, review the engagement strategy updates, the engagement updates, sort of go over the chart of the questions to ask ourselves, then go out for other community information or feedback if needed. That would include the HCDC study and any other folks that we through the process think we need to ask. And that's going back to Andrea, your question. This is where this fits in is, once we get through all that, are we going to sit down with or invite HCDC and or HATVA and or, Friends of the Rail Trail and or who and why? The answer may be yes, and the answer may be no. We don't know that yet. And then the other sections need to be updated to get us to a streamlined, relevant document and get rid of the coulds and shoulds and options and make them is and will and shall and does. So changing those action words, changing the tone of the document from, here's all kinds of things you could do to here's what's been decided is going to happen there, making sure that we keep the language that says all options remain on the table because the world changes on a dime. And then I don't know I have no idea how long all of this will take. Then I see us sort of doing a final review and then having a red line version. And so all the changes that we've been making to date would show up in a red line document that council would see. That would be reflective of these conversations, any conversations we choose to have or need to have with external users or groups, and then bring a proposed renewed or updated rail trail master plan document to County Council. And I think we agreed that is likely to be sometime in the spring.
Yeah.
So does that sound like?
It sounds fabulous. And you said you were not organized, and you're wrong, because it made perfect clear sense to me. And I know you're when you get interested and you're passionate about something, and you have a lot of history with the rail trail, and because of sharing that community engagement piece 8 years ago, yeah, it's fabulous. I believe Craig sent that out as a document at the very beginning when we were starting to get together. I'd have to find another email, but I'm pretty sure he sent out the master plan, the community engagement piece, etc. Right, Craig?
I sent out a table version, the way my mind works, into an Excel spreadsheet, but it starts way back before my time. And in 2014, there were updates as well, comments on each of the resolutions. So it's gone through a number of steps. And I think we should probably go back to the start, 2012, and share the 2014, and then I can share where we're at today, if that helps.
Yeah, and do you have, so I did it. So I have the final recommendations report in the original chart. Do you have that in your computer somewhere at the office there, Craig?
I'm not 100% sure. You have it in a PDF version or in some sort of or Excel, I guess, maybe?
No, it was done in Word and Word with
Okay.
table. So,
Okay.
and I think it's just good background information as a refresher, because it does say there were categories that said, you know, if it was immediate or longer term. It's so, and then there was a second column that said what's been done, what still needs to be done, who's the lead and who are the partners, what's the time frame, what's the budget, what's the working group recommendation of that strategy outcome, and then what's required of council. And so then that combined, Craig, with your Excel spreadsheet, those will tie together, because the engagement strategy final report is laid out to be easily consumed, but then you transferred it into your internal working document for Public Works. So right. I can send out the engagement strategy final recommendations, you know what, I'll send it to you, then you have it, and then maybe that can go out, those two documents can go out just as a refresher for those who were there, and maybe a first look for those who weren't there. And then going through that, I think will really get us where we are. And I believe, I'm hoping that once we look at that, the changes we've made to date will make more sense. And I think we might end up going back to some of these sections that we've reviewed and saying, you know, double checking to make sure they're still relevant. What we're doing is, it sounds like a bit of a dog's breakfast, but instead of rewriting an entire document that starts with once upon a time, we want to take what we already have and just refine it to reflect current needs and values.
Yep.
And I'm happy to send this note out if Michelle is scribbling madly to catch up with what I'm talking about. I don't know what she's doing there. I can't see her.
Scribbling madly.
Scribbling madly. And so that's sort of the step-by-step. I had a conversation with Amanda and Craig. We landed at this to ensure that we review what's here, review what's been done to date, talk to the public or other user groups if we need to, and then change all the shoulds and woulds and options to is and does and shall, and then get a red line to council.
Yep, sounds good.
That makes sense. Okay. And Andrea, I appreciate your comments. I feel a little more engaged in the process now since Craig and Amanda and I had this conversation, and I had to get my head around, you know, where it might go and what needs to be included and who needs to be included. We don't want to leave anybody behind.
No, but I really like what you just said there, in that we're not trying to create, we're not throwing out an old document. We're just making it relevant. And that's what the purpose of this whole roundtable was. And it came to a head because, probably because of COVID and also the work that the Friends of the Rail Trail are doing currently because of COVID and youth on the rail trail. And so the timing is perfect, and it just shows our commitment at the county that we know that this is a valuable asset. And so I think, like you say, we're not reinventing or starting from scratch. We're just getting it to be updated and relevant. So no, it's fabulous.
Okay, then. Okay, well then that basically takes us to the end of the agenda for today. And don't think that an hour-long meeting is going to be the norm, because there's a lot of work ahead. But it's a matter of getting it in order to be able to do the work. So.
And seeing those documents, the spreadsheets and previous documents will really help in refreshing where we landed at during the last discussions, and I know it'll help me.
Yeah, and again, in terms of that, the changing of what it looks like, even it'll be, the rail trail master plan going back to, there's some, the introduction, the master plan committee secured the services of Stantec Consulting. Well, that's still relevant in terms of by way of history. So there's still some pieces that we can pre-see to make sure that the document is still reflective of the previous process. But then the content, we don't need to define the vision or develop the vision. We're at phase 3, which is refine the vision as in the old document. So anyway, there's a lot of just sort of narrative modification to be done in text. And we'll see that in the spring, probably. Not sure who's going to write that, but we'll see how we go. Okay, if everybody's satisfied with those couple of pieces of business, then we can probably move along. Is there anything that anybody else wants to talk about today in terms of preparing for the big heavy lifting that's to come?
No, not really.
Anybody? Okay.
Nope.
Well, then, do we need a resolution about the process and future direction? Do you think?
I don't think we do need a resolution about that right now. No, I think
No,
we just
it'll-
agreed on how we would do our work.
Go ahead, Dave.
And it will be in our minutes.
Yes. And Michelle, I can't see you, but if you need me, I don't know what you've crafted there, or if you need me to just send you these 4 or 5 points, I'm happy to do so that the minutes can reflect them if you'd like, or you may have caught them yourself.
If we could combine our notes, that would be great. Thank you, Carol.
Great, just in that one section. Okay. What's are we meeting a month from now? We agreed on a month, didn't we?
We did.
Yes.
So that would take us to, who's got a calendar in front of them?
November
Oh,
12th.
the 12th.
Holy smokes, November 12th.
The only problem with the 12th is that I might be traveling to Kingston for EOWC.
You won't be doing that. We don't know, right? We don't know whether we'll be meeting in person by then or not.
That's a tentative plan, and that they were really hoping to try and work something out where there's physical distancing and yet we can meet. That's right now that's the plan.
Okay, so a bit of a challenge there because we do like to all stick to firm dates.
Yep.
So it's a busy month because there's council meetings and there's all kinds of things. When will you know about that, Liz?
Yeah, I would think that we would know within a couple of weeks. Let's set it for the 12th. If we could have it in the morning, then there wouldn't be a conflict. And if it turned out that we were going to be able to have our meeting, I wouldn't be traveling until the afternoon anyway. Can we do that?
It's fine by me. Andrea and Dave, what do you think?
Yes.
Yes, I'm fine.
But our staff folks there, is morning all right for everybody who's sitting in the chambers down there?
We have 3 nods.
Excellent. So is that a 9 start or a 10 start? Pick your poison.
10.
Oh, perfect. One more coffee. So let's aim for 10 on November the 12th. And we will carry on from there.
Okay, right on.
So may I have a,
Carol,
yes, ma'am.
before we adjourn, just to, so because those are going to be meaty documents, as long as they, the community engagement, it can get sent out any time in advance. Like, doesn't have to wait to the agenda, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll forward my version to Craig this afternoon, and then whenever he finds a few minutes to ship those both out to the group just as prep, as homework, then that's what we'll do. Good thought. Okay, may I have a mover and a seconder to adjourn this meeting today?
Carol, could I just have one second?
Yes, Dave, go ahead, please.
Sorry. I thought that we were going to reach out to Minden Hills to see if they put a rep on this committee. Did that happen, or was I dreaming? Or
I believe Mayor DeVolen was CC'd. Craig, can you speak to that?
Actually, I sent a note out to all of this group with and CC'd Brent saying, you know, that we would appreciate and like to have a representative from Minden Hills, and I have had no response.
okay. Can someone reach out again and see if there's some interest there?
I can do that, or sure, whatever the group thinks.
I mean, I think the contact's been made, and
That's what I'm thinking. And also, we are an ad hoc roundtable. We're not making any, I mean, we're having really good in-depth discussion, and we'll continue to do so, but there'll be an opportunity when it comes to county council to see where we started from, because like you say, a red line document, so you can say this is what it was and here's what we're proposing. So there's definitely opportunity for Minden Hills representatives to be have some say and comment.
Plus, it's difficult to jump in at this point. You know, we've had two really good discussions about this. We're moving through the document. We kind of would have to go back to some extent if we added somebody at this point. I agree. The opportunity has been offered and the ask has been made, and there was no response.
yeah, so
Okay, that's fine.
well, fair enough. I mean, if anybody is having any just conversations about other business, you know, anybody can mention it to anybody in Minden they're speaking to and see. If,
Yeah.
In terms of deliberately reaching out, we've already done that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And everybody's busy. There's no question. We're all busy. Everyone's busy. So, okay, then thank you for that. Circle back. Can I have a mover and a seconder to adjourn today's meeting? Andrea? And Liz?
Be it resolved that the October 8th, 2020 meeting of the Haliburton County Rail Trail Steering Committee now adjourn.
All in favor of that?
Yeah.
Andrea, and Dave says yes. So great. All right. Well, thanks everybody, and we'll have some more stuff for homework, and we'll just keep picking away. I think our purpose was to pick, and we're doing that. So
yep.
We'll continue to pick in a month's time. And Liz, as soon as you find out, you'll let us know, eh?
Well, we set it for the 10th. I think she'll be okay. Sorry, at 10 a.m. Yeah. And she'll be okay because she doesn't need to leave till after the meeting. So I think it's a go.
Okay. So we're just gonna.
We're good to go.
Okay, 10 a.m. regardless of whether or not you go.
Yep.
Okay, sorry, I misunderstood that. All right, thank you. Well, thanks everybody. Have a good long weekend and be safe.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving. Bye.
Yep, same to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.